everybody, it's me, John Ward, and welcome back to another One Filmmaker, One Film. And for the third time on One Filmmaker, One Film, my guest is...
Uwe Boll, and there's only one Uwe, so if I wrote only Uwe, that should be enough, right?
That's right. Yeah, I don't know anybody else who has your name, so it's a very unique name.
Yeah. And no, I'm happy to be back. It's always fun to chat and talk. Before we started recording, I said I watched the Karate Kid movie basically today, the new one, the Legends, or what the undertitle was. I mean, I think it was not so good as the Cobra Kai, but it was still enjoyable and entertaining.
Yeah, and I didn't I enjoyed all the Karate Kid movies, all four. I was not a fan of the Jackie Chan one so much, and then loved Cobra Kai. The last two seasons I thought were okay, and then now I'm looking forward to the movie Legends. So and then we'll see what happens after that if they continue to make movies or another TV show. So,
but I have to say, I think Cobra Kai, the last few episodes, they went out big, right? So with the tournament and people like. When keys, whatever, when you in the boat and they explode and stuff, but I mean they've wrapped it up. Let's say it this way, right? So, but I agree with you. It felt a little almost rushed, and it felt this kind of okay. So what is happening now? Are they ever talking about that these two guys are dead? I mean, like there was this kind of. Everything happened in the last episode, and you feel like, where's the investigation about it? And all this stuff, right? So there was a lot of times in TV series, also in some movies, I have the feeling the whole setup takes forever. And then when it really escalates, a lot of things have loose ends and the thing is over. And you feel like, no, you should put the same kind of storytelling time also into an end, where you have the feeling like that it comes, you see it coming, and then you also, in a way, you enjoy, like in Breaking Bad, that was a great ending, right? Because you saw it over episodes coming. You didn't saw it only like half of the last episode. Oh, now the shit hits the fan. No, it was already 2 or 3 episodes before the end. You felt like it's all going downhill. It will be all over for everybody, basically. So, and and that was in Cobra Kai, not so good, but I think Cobra Kai was overall a great show, and I totally enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I really wanted them to do 6 seasons, which they did, and I wanted the 3 episodes, beginning, middle, or seasons, beginning, middle, and end, then do another 3 beginning, middle, and end. And I think probably by 5 and 6, maybe they were getting a little, they were just like, okay, we need to end this. And so maybe it shouldn't have been 6 seasons. I am very disappointed that Hilary Swank never made it there. I mean, they got everybody else but her. So it would have been nice to to have her do a little cameo.
Yeah, totally. And but look, right now I'm watching The Last of Us, the second season. And I think that went downhill too fast. I feel like I said it, like for me, that was the best video game based production ever, the first season of The Last of Us. And I think the second season is losing all the appeal. And I'm not really interested now to keep watching that.
Yeah, I heard they killed Joel off too fast, even though it happens in the game pretty quickly, that they should have had him longer and then killed him, a little more towards the middle of the show.
That's the problem with the game movies, right? So if you're playing a game, you're in the game. If a guy like him dies, you're the player, you're the active part. If you watch something, and I mean, he carried the whole show. And when he gets killed, like in episode 3 or whatever of the second season, for me, this thing was over. I don't want to watch Bella Ramsey alone trying to get revenge. That's not enough. and and then it's like an endless drag also, like this kind of and I felt also that the action sequences a lot of times were now so similar to a lot of movies done now, Mission Impossible, whatever, Bad Boys, all that movies. The action sequence is getting so unbelievable that it's like, for me, not like believable anymore, right? So when you feel like, okay, they have no more bullets, they have 150 zombies crashing through the door, and then they make it in the last second, always in that last trapdoor exit, or the last going on the bus and disappearing, that's pissing me off. So I try to, for myself when I make movies, but also when I watch movies, to see, I've always asked myself, is that doable? Could that actually happen this way? And I have to say, in The Last of Us, the season 1, I would say yes. But in The Last of Us, the season 2, there would be dead, like various times, 100% dead. And that's then I have like a kind of a problem with it. It's the same with John Wick or something, where you feel, you watch this last John Wick and you feel like, what the fuck? I mean, like, how can he survive all of this? And then he's doing a duel in the end and gets shot with the first shot, like dead. Like, where you feel like you have people with machine guns shooting at him, and he's just covering himself up with this nice Armani suit, basically the bulletproof Armani suit, and nothing ever happens to him. And then really, like, the duel, one shot, and he is almost dead. I mean, he's not completely dead, but I feel,
oh no,
I have problems with it. I just watched today that trailer from Ballerina, what's coming up now, that John Wick spin-off with Armas, whatever the name is. And I feel the action is similar absurd. When you watch the trailer already, you think like, you're not Superman, you're a normal trained assassin, so you cannot fall down a building like 25 meters and you land on your feet and then you run away or something. I mean, what is that? That's just like, I have a problem with this stuff.
Well, now you've made, a fair amount of video games into films. So if let's say they never made the TV series for The Last of Us, and they came to you and said, we would like for you to take the first game, and if it, and if we like it, we'll have you come in and do the second game. Is that something that you'd be interested in, like doing a Last of Us movie?
Yeah, I know, but I 100%. But I think it's either or. I mean, who would watch now a movie after the TV series was already done? I mean, it would be tough to establish this. I think it's a lot of times now, like Fallout is a TV series. So now it's the decision, TV series or movie, and then they go with one of them and move ahead. I'm very curious to see how the new House of the Dead movie will pan out, like, and that comes out next year. And then I hope that they show, at least in some streamers or midnight movie theaters, whatever, both movies, that they do like double features, or they re-show my movie, and then people can compare it.
Yeah, because that's I mean, I don't think a lot can beat yours. I've told you before that I love your version of House of the Dead. I think it's great. And so that's they did get the director from, I believe it's from Resident Evil to to do this. So it's going to be interesting to see, one, if Mila has a part in it, because he seems to always cast her in his stuff. But what they're going to do with it.
Yeah. No, they're married, right? So they're a couple.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. And but when I saw Mila Jovovich is in it, I felt like, oh my God, now the House of the Dead movie will be like another Resident Evil movie. That's my gut feeling, that they will move very much away from real blood and special effects and stuff, and more into CGI and this fast moving, like more AI feeling to the movie. What I had in the last, like also Resident Evil movies, where you feel like nothing is really happening in real. It's all like done in a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. Let's yeah, I always get a little scared with that stuff, because even the Resident Evil film, the Welcome to Raccoon City, I was not a fan, and I did not like the Netflix series. So
Yeah, there was even a Netflix series of Resident Evil. I hated it. I watched one episode and I couldn't watch it. And I felt at that point, okay, it's dead now. It's over like that. They shouldn't continue with any Resident Evil stuff. But they never give up. they always come back. So no, yeah, we will see. But it will be interesting. 2026, I think they bring that film out.
yeah, yeah. Well, and you have some films coming out too, so so we can look forward to that. And and I had messaged you asking, if you wouldn't mind answering questions that Chat GPT put out there. I basically put in keywords and then see what it would come up with. So are you curious? Should we jump into that?
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I thought we would begin with, I thought we kind of go backwards, start with something that's brand new that hasn't come out yet, and then go. So, because this is something I am very interested in, which is Citizen Vigilante, and I am an Armie Hammer fan, and I've seen House of Hammer, I've seen a lot of his movies, I own a lot of his movies. He's a very interesting character. He's his whole family has had a history. And so I guess before I ask the question, why Armie Hammer? How did that happen for this film?
No, I was looking out for an actor who can carry like a more action-driven thriller, but he has to be a guy who's like a real kind of leading character. So, and then I watched Bill Mayer's talk show, Club Random, where Armie Hammer was in. And because I didn't have Armie Hammer even in my mind for the thing. And then I watched him and I listened to the whole story with the cancellation, the sex affairs, and he took drugs, but then he didn't took drugs anymore, that he's clean now and everything is fine. And Bill Mayer said also, you're a movie star, you should come back. Like you're too young to now be canceled for the rest of your life. And I felt exactly. And then I looked him up, right, on IMDb Pro, and saw he has no agent, manager, nothing. So I messaged him on Instagram, and he answered, and he basically worked only with an attorney to check a contract or an offer or whatever, but no management and agency. And he read the script, he really liked it. And that is how we found together, basically, So, and I mean, 5 years ago, I could never afford it. He would got millions of dollars per movie. So it was, I think it was a great thing for him, because it was the second movie. He did one Western before, not released so far, but it was the second movie. And I think it's important now that he works and that he comes back, because the audience don't really care. They know Armie Hammer and they don't really care about what happened with his cancellation. There was no lawsuit, there was no jail, there was nothing. Basically, it was just like jealousy from women. He had various woman lover stuff, and abuse, because drugs, alcohol, but it was not like Puff Daddy. It was not like kind of where people got raped and stuff like this. So I mean, that's the story. So, and I'm very happy we did a very good job. We are in the last bits of the music and mix. So I would say the movie is finished in 4 or 5 weeks. And then we're looking out for a deal, to get it out there. It's very violent. We had a little teaser. We didn't release it, but in Cannes, we showed like some buyers a teaser. And unfortunately, a lot of them said it's too violent. So now we have to do 2 versions, like an uncut version and an R-rated normal version in a way. So I hired Olaf Ittenbach to do the blood effects, like a real splatter guy. And because I felt like, even if it's a lot of violence in the film, is more like gun violence, but I really wanted like this kind of shoot his head off, you know, not this kind of, you have a little script here and there and people just collapse. I really went for it and said like,
Nice.
yeah, you know, so they're great shots, but there were like, for some buyers, I think they were like, oh my fucking God, like we cannot do this, blah, blah, blah. What is also, I think, a problem now, because streaming is not like Blockbuster. You know, on the video, in the video world, on DVD or Blu-ray, I think you have way more people have no problem with violence. And now the streamers, most of the streamers have a very like tougher stand on, it cannot be too hard, it cannot be too graphic or something. So, yeah, we will see. But it was an easy fix because we were not really finished with the post-production. Then it's easier to output two versions, and one is just 2 minutes shorter with like this kind of more detailed, gruesome footage out.
Yeah. Okay, so will there be a do you think maybe a physical copy that will be unrated, or is it just going to be streaming, do you think?
I don't know, but I mean, in the US, it's so hard to get now DVDs out and Blu-rays, like in Germany. Right now, like in Germany, First Shift is right now out. Last week it came out in Germany, Italy, and England. And DVD, Blu-ray, it's still a market. It's not so big, but they do it. And in US, when I had like on First Shift, for example, Quiver, they said, no, we're not doing DVDs and Blu-rays. And then I found somebody, Massacre Video, who did the postal 4K stuff new. And I don't know, I think they have some problems, but the deal fell apart. And now First Shift is not coming out in the US on Blu-ray and DVD. And that's pissing off because we always do that making offs. I do a director's commentary. I did that already. And this is what I wanted to put. That's a good reason to put First Shift out on at least Blu-ray or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I want a physical of that stuff. So yeah. It's well, I do want to talk about First Shift too. So let's look at, so on here. Okay, let me see which one was better. I think this one was better. Okay, so it says so I just wrote you know, interview question, Boll, citizen vigilante, and this is what it came up with. So, and it says, here's a strong interview question about citizen vigilante, a more recent, well, I wouldn't say, they put lesser known. I mean, it's a new project. So, you know, project by you. So it wouldn't be lesser known. It would just be newer. Your film Citizen Vigilante seems to revisit themes you've explored before: rage, justice, and social and societal failure. What inspired this particular story, and how does it differ from your earlier work like Rampage?
I think the main point in Rampage and this film is that Bill Williamson in Rampage, he basically was the perpetrator, right? So he was not the justice warrior or something. It was the opposite, you know. But the crazy thing is that you still liked him in a way, or I liked him in a way, you know, that you still were willing to follow a guy like this through even 3 Rampage movies. And Citizen Vigilante is basically, the setup is that he is stranded, like his father owned a lot of real estate and died in Croatia. So it plays in Croatia. And he is in that city and takes care of the inheritance, basically. But he sees more and more this kind of injustice things where people getting, like girls getting raped and nobody goes to jail for it. Same problem in the US, same problem in Europe, where you have the feeling the prosecution of really violent crimes doesn't exist anymore. Like people coming longer in jail for tax evasion as for rape, you know? And so, and he because he has a military background, he goes against this kind of like crime groups, drug dealers, and so on. And he's doing it harsh. So that's the thing. It's not when you have the feeling like at Equalizer, for example, Denzel Washington. I really like the Equalizer movies, but he always needs a reason that he gets attacked in a way. You have different. He is more like Charles Bronson in Death Wish, you know, like where when you say, okay, these guys are bad, he goes against them, and then he really like annihilates them. So that's the thing where I think the trailer was a little too harsh for some people, because at that point, if you watch only the trailer, you don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Then then you feel like, oh my God, that guy is like really killing everybody, you know? So, but when you watch the whole movie, you will see that he doesn't kill anybody without a reason. There's always a backstory to it, and we tell the backstory. So, and I think it has this political aspect to it, like what Assault on Wall Street also had, you know, with the injustice of the whole banking system. Everybody failed and they made millions, and tons of people lost their existence. Yeah. And it's the same where we have every day in Europe, we have knife stabbings, we have mass rapes, and so on. And I point that out, that we cannot like continue with this kind of justice. When you Google today, yesterday was the biggest soccer game of the year, the Champions League final, and Paris won. But look at the videos, go on YouTube. They destroyed Paris after. Like there were like massive, like a civil war in the streets. Oh, geez. And mostly from migrants, to be honest, like mostly from people from other cultures. And they're using situations like this to completely escalate situations out of basically hate against the Western civilization. So, and that I show that too. I mean, we don't have only like migrants he goes after, he goes against perpetrators, and there are also some Caucasians with it. It's not like this, but it's still the majority of, like, for example, in Germany, the majority of knife stabbings or rapes are non-Germans. So, and that, so the film has that political appeal to it. Yeah.
So and then this is me asking a question, not chat. So when you set out to make a film like this, do you go and watch other vigilante movies, like you mentioned Death Wish, or do you watch, you know, Vigilante, or do you watch other movies to kind of get inspired to write and go out and make it, or is it just all right from scratch?
No, it's always inspired also by movies I love or movies I watched, you know, like Falling Down. I think I have a good homage in Citizen Vigilante on Falling Down, where a situation is completely slowly escalating, you know, with people in the bus, they don't pay the tickets, and the bus driver refuses to drive, and he's in the bus, and then he pays for them, right, and says, look, I paid, I want that bus keeps going. But of course the audience knows that he could also just kick the ass and like kick the shit out of them, but he's not, right? He's paying for them. But then they start being very, very like assholes to him, you know? And then he basically takes one guy to the side and tells him, like, look, you don't know it now, but that's the luckiest day of your life right now. Just get out of the bus and goodbye, right? And then they're going out and then they do like this to him. And you already feel like later in the movie, these people will come back, right? So at one point, and they're coming back, but this time it's a very bad mistake that they do something again, what he witnesses, and then it goes straight to action. So, and I had, that was the thing what I had with Falling Down. There were scenes where I really loved Falling Down. You know, this slow
great movie
at McDonald's, and you know, the guys with the baseball bats, and when you're stuck in traffic and you flip out against everybody because they're driving like idiots. So that is what I didn't like the ending of Falling Down. I liked the whole, I was on the side of Michael Douglas for a long time in the first hour of Falling Down. That part I really love.
Yeah, it seemed like with Falling Down that they had to give you a reason that he was already mentally unstable instead of just. I mean, I lived in LA for a long time, and I get the traffic. I understand. You know, I had a gun held at me while I was on the freeway. These two guys held a shotgun at me, and they were driving right alongside with me. I mean, I get it, and to me, that was just good enough for him to kind of lose it. But then they always have to give a reason, you know, oh, well, he was already mentally unstable.
Yeah, that
And
describes for me the whole movie. You know,
yeah.
The point is that he was right, that it's like bullshit. Like we have 11:02, you're not getting a breakfast anymore, right? 2 minutes over, and now, oh no, we switched to lunch menu, and you think like, okay, but there is the breakfast, like just give it to me, still standing there, you know, at McDonald's. And that's the thing where I feel that's just ridiculous, and not you know, that's I love this kind of stuff. Let's say it this way, you know, where you feel like, oh my God, I cannot believe it, how stupid the society is, and I want a guy like him doing something. Wait, I have to let the dog quick out. It doesn't stop barking. But yeah, what are you doing? God. It was my son outside with two other kids, and then I think they want to leave, and they don't want that the dog goes after them. So the dog is chasing. He wants to chase them down the hill, basically, right? So, and now I let him out. Now they have to handle him. So
now it's up to them.
Yeah. So no, but that was what. So the question was inspired. I think when you watch so many movies like me, and I'm sure you watch the same amount of movies, you're always kind of inspired. You always remember other movies to say, I just write something plainly because of the story, and I don't care about any other movie ever shot. That's impossible. You know.
What about real life vigilantes like Bernie Getz and stuff? Is that something that I was always I liked Bernie Getz until I found out, and I watched the documentary on him, that he was a pretty big racist. I'm like, now I don't know if I can support this or not. But everything before that, I was not against.
No, that's the thing. It's like, I think this kind of real, I mean, we have this situation now where I'm strongly against, is this good-looking guy who killed that United Health's CEO, right? So, and he gets all celebrated because he's a good-looking, cool guy, and he gets stylized up to a hero, but he shot an unarmed guy in the back, like, you know, like, and that's for me not like anything you should praise or something. That's
no.
Totally absurd, you know. And I mean, when I had it in Sold on Wall Street, the banker and the guy who gave Dominic Purcell the wrong advices, he keeps all his money, and Dominic Purcell's wife is doing suicide. He's losing his house, and he's losing his job, and he's losing his whole existence. That's the reason to go after somebody, you know. So because there was no justice. So you know, and I mean, it's this Vigilante. Nobody's doing anything in a way to Army Hammer, but they're doing things to the society, you know, and they're doing things to where you say, okay, we cannot function as a society, or, you know, if you have no-go zones in cities, if you have, like, if you go to the subway and you have to be scared to get like robbed or stabbed. That was with Death Wish, as we know, this times the 80s and early 90s and so on in New York, you had a 50-50 chance to get robbed if you're at nighttime in the subway. So it was just out of control. And that's where then you have the law enforcement coming in, or you don't. And if not, then you need to arm yourself. You know, they have to say, look, I'm not like getting there and now I'm hiding a gun on me or something. So I think that's the same with Citizen Vigilante, but the backdrop is really this kind of crazy like race in violent crimes in Europe.
Yeah, it's I always found vigilante films to be interesting, and that like it's funny that you mentioned The Equalizer, because I actually just got done watching part 3. I did a marathon of all 3 movies, and I also just watched Hatfields and McCoys, the one with Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton, and that's all about them going back and forth. And of course, they do hire, you know, the guys to come in and you know, kill, you know, it could be the Hatfields or the McCoys, and it's you know, it's I think that there's definitely a thin line, you know, when it comes to that type of thing, because yeah, I mean, if somebody kills your wife and kid,
Yeah,
you know, maybe, you know,
yeah,
but if
yeah.
but if somebody drops a piece of gum on the ground and you step on it by mistake and now you're, you know,
Yeah.
no.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but that's the thing where he recognized that a lot of people are just helpless. There is a scene in Citizen Vigilante where he goes to a house from a young girl who got raped, and the father doesn't know who he is. He thinks he's a journalist or something. And then he basically says, I have only one question, is, did your daughter think she got justice? Like, so is she feeling justice was served? Because he followed the trial and there was nobody going to jail because they were all under 18 years old and so on. And the father wants to throw him out and close the door, but the daughter in the back says, no, there was no justice, right? And that was the only thing, that was his green light, basically, to go after them. So, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sure that some journalists or some people will say Citizen Vigilante is a revenge fantasy. It's this kind of like, you know, where people that want to take the justice in their own hands will say, see, that guy is doing it right, whatever, right? So I see it from the other perspective. As a lot of films I did, I show violence also to stop so that behavior gets corrected. I want that the justice system gets corrected, that people go to jail who rape a minor, period. And not like getting a slap on the wrist. And like, no, like if you really rape with like 8 guys, a young girl, you should not leave jail before 10 years or something. I mean, it's insane to get probation for something like this. I mean, you know, and that's what I'm feeling. And I think that now this kind of for different reasons also, the whole justice system, they don't know anymore what justice is. And, you know, they go totally overboard on some people, but most of the people now, you're not getting hard penalties anymore for like bank robbery, you know, 3 years and stuff like this. I mean, then you basically, why you shouldn't do it? You know, when you feel like
Right.
I have a 50-50 chance that I'm not getting even prosecuted, that I'm not getting ever arrested. So, and if I get actually arrested, I get like 3 years, 2 years probation. So, I mean, that's not really a motive to not do crime. So, yeah.
Yeah, they just had I don't know if you heard about this or not, about the woman who set her friend on fire for a joke about women. It is that they'd known each other for 9 years. They were drunk, she was doing cocaine, and he made the joke of, ha ha ha, go into the kitchen and make me a sandwich. And I believe this was in Australia. And she came back with gasoline, poured it on him, took the lighter out and started doing this type of thing, caught him on fire. And it's been months and months in critical care, and he has to go through physical therapy, and he's got to get the sutures and everything done. And I mean, this guy's life is completely ruined, and she got 7 years. And I don't know if I don't think that's enough.
No, that's not enough. I mean, he got really disfigured by the fire and stuff like this. And
Yeah, he looks like Cropsy from The Burning, I guess. You know, that he's really messed up looking. Like all the stuff you heard about Kane Hodder when he, you know, accidentally caught on fire is yeah, he's like spending years and years and years now in therapy over a dumb joke, you know.
yeah,
Go make me a sandwich. And then she set him on fire.
that's ridiculous. Because if she got 7 years, she's out after 4. You know, so that's the thing. And then maybe the trial was already 1 year, so you have 3 years more to go. And yeah, that's what it's exactly what I think. You know, I'm not again. I'm in general. I'm not pro life without parole. I think everybody should get the chance to reform and really prove it and change it. I mean, not a serial murderer. You know, you cannot like let Ted Bundy free or something. You know, but you know, but let's say you killed somebody and was like, you just murdered somebody, whatever reason, bank robbery, you shot the guard. I think you should get life for this, but you should get the chance that you get out of there at one point. You know, like after 20 years or something, that they're really looking into it and what person you are after 20 years. I think that would be fairer, especially also when we have all these cases where they open the cases later and they find out that they were maybe innocent, like people got arrested for nothing and they got life without parole, and then they have a big problem to overturn the decision because there was no parole possibility, so they cannot just parole them. And that is also bullshit, especially when you find new like DNA evidence, other witnesses, and stuff like this. Then it's like just a hurdle where even if everybody knows this guy should be free, and then it's still taking 3 years before something legally happens. Yeah. What more questions you have? What ChatGPT question?
So now, because you actually answered a lot of the questions that chat asked. So I thought, how about Run? Because I like to talk about the newest and then kind of go up a little bit, because these are the ones I'm really interested in. I actually just ordered. I ordered 3 movies. I ordered. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but the one with Edward Furlong that you did, STO.
Stoic.
Yes, Stoic. I just ordered that one because I just found it. I just ordered one that I don't think you're a huge fan of, Seed 2. I found that one for cheap.
Yeah, I didn't direct it. I basically gave the license to somebody else who did it, right? So I think Seed 1 had a little more deepness to it, that it was not just a slasher or horror film. And I think the second one is a little flat, but watch it now where you ordered it, of course.
Yeah, I saw it a while back, and I know that there's like a second version of it called like the Black Edition, where it's more of like a director's cut, I guess. But the it takes place in Vegas, where I live, and I believe the director still lives out here. But I actually did. I just rewatched it, so I have it here, and I made sure when I found it that it had its slipcover and it's got the game in it and everything. So I was going to bring this up a little bit later, but since I just brought it up and you just talked about it, I don't think a lot of people, and I've mentioned this before, understand that your films have kind of underlining meanings, that they could just look at maybe something that you made and go, oh, that's just violent.
Yeah.
But it's for a reason. I mean, Darfur was violent for a reason.
Yeah.
And even with Seed, you have stuff from like PETA. You mentioned PETA, that it's like footage from them of animals being tortured. And I did listen to like the audio commentary where you say, it's to show like the human condition and how evil people can be. And, Seed tortures the people in those rooms and we see them decaying. And I'm like, wow, that's a really cool effect. And so I wanted to learn more about that. So I watched the behind the scenes. But this is kind of a vigilante movie in a way also, because he, you know, he comes back and takes out those people that did him wrong, even though he's a mass serial killer.
Yes. I mean, he's not like, he's a vigilante, but not a good guy, let's say it this way. He is a psycho killer. But at the same time, the deeper meaning was, that's the reason with the PETA animal torture footage, basically, is this kind of, who are humans? Like, that, are humans good or not? Like, in general, you know? And I feel like humans can go in every direction. It's this kind of, it's like, it's harder because of the human brain, basically. It's different as animals. Animals, it's crystal clear. They want to survive. They want to eat, you know, they want to be safe. So they will not kill for fun. You know, they will kill in defense, they will kill to eat. But humans are like, so in a way degenerated, that you have this kind of possibilities that you, otherwise it would be not like explainable when people enjoy massacres, like what I showed in Darfur, or what we saw with the Hamas there in Israel and stuff. You know, when you actually do shit like this, that they actually are able to even celebrate it, enjoying it. That's the thing. I recently watched The Zone of Interest, like that movie about Auschwitz, where what was nominated for tons of Oscars, from Jonathan Glazer. And that movie, I think this movie and my Auschwitz movie should be almost shown back to back, because in his movie, you see the absurdity that they were living in front of the concentration camp, as where the guards lived and where the boss of the whole Auschwitz camp lived, with the family and the kids. They go to school and they're acting like behind the wall, nothing. You know, it's like okay, that's the way it is. So they, I think, know that the people get killed there. Even the family knows it, but they dehumanize the humans that who getting killed in Auschwitz as like, too bad for them, has nothing to do with us. And then they do Christmas parties, and you know, it looks like a totally normal family. And when people said that it's the same, like whatever the massacres in Israel on October 7th, or whenever, I think it was October 7th, I see a big difference. I think both, like the Nazis at that point, and also like this kind of ISIS people who chop heads off or whatever, this the thing what they both are, like the dehumanized groups. They think the Jews or the blacks in Darfur or whatever, you know, they are not humans. Like, we can do whatever we want with them. They are not worth living. So their feelings or their pain is actually means nothing. But based on the Western civilization, on the more like developed society, as the Germans, and I'm a German, were in the Second World War already, it was more like they had to divide their brain to basically doesn't see themselves what they were doing. Otherwise, they would flip complete. That's the reason they did this mechanical killings, right? This kind of gas chamber. It's like a slaughterhouse for animals where everything is organized and it should be calm and easy. You know, this kind of like, we don't want stress. We don't want like revolutionary breakout. It's totally sick. It's like crazy, but it's totally, in my opinion, still a huge difference. And it's not like the either or, whatever. But to celebrate, to kill a kid and chop the head off, and to actually are happy that you did it, and you run around with the head like this, what the Al-Qaeda did, the ISIS did, and here the Hamas and so on. That's totally different, because that shows the culture behind that culture. You know, I mean, it's a complicated subject, but I really felt like The Zone of Interest. In the beginning, I was a little like bored, because nothing really happens. You know, like they just like go fishing, whatever, they eat together. But then after a while, it still gets you that it's so absurd. You know, I mean, the kids would ask, like, what the fuck is behind that? I hear people screaming behind the wall. I mean, normally it would, like, you get out of it and you would say, Papa, I mean, it's obviously there's something going on and I want to go inside there now and watch it. So, and that, I think that was the strength of the movie, but I think that movie needs my Auschwitz movie, because my Auschwitz movie shows only what is inside the gas chamber, inside that it shows the actually things what happened there. And I think it's very important to basically watch both movies, you know, to get that shocking element. No, that is what they actually did. And otherwise, if you watch only Jonathan Glazer's movie, you have no clue.
Yeah, that's where I think people, you know, I don't think that they understand your films, that they look at this as, oh, he made a movie about Auschwitz. How dare he?
Exactly.
And
how could he ever do this? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and why can Spielberg make Schindler's List and everybody go, oh my God, it's such a wonderful film, Academy Award winning movie. Oh, look what everybody went through. Oh, geez. And then you make a film and it's, how dare he? How dare he? And it's like, why can't he? You know,
Yeah.
if the film has something to say, if you have something to say, why can't you make a movie about it? And you're showing what went on. And I used to have a roommate when I was in college. She was from Germany. And when we talked about World War II and stuff, she did not know a lot about it. She just said that it wasn't really talked about. So she didn't, it took her in America to really know more about what happened. Because just like the school she went to didn't really want to talk about it that much.
No, so, and now they do less and less, like in today's time, because they don't want to offend anybody for nothing anymore. So they don't dig into the Holocaust. They basically, in schools, less and less. When I was young, we got it really like based on something like this should never happen again. The school was really moving people forward, and we watched like Alain René's the Fog and Nebel, and this famous movie from him where you really see the dead bodies everywhere and so on. We watched that in school. We watched the Shoah, the documentary, 4 hours documentary about the SS people who survived and so on. So that's all over. Nobody's doing that in school anymore, and that means like people don't understand that, and it's also one of the reasons why there's a big misunderstanding, I think, when you see the reactions of the Western civilization, a lot of people, about like what the Hamas did or what Israel did or what right right-wing parties in Europe getting accused nonstop. They are Nazis and they want like the new Holocaust. But the reality is that every right-wing party I know in Europe, the AfD in Germany, Meloni in Italy, Orban in Hungary, they are protecting the Jews. They are only against Islamistic terror and against like Islam. They have nothing against any Jew at all. And most Jews actually in Germany, the Jewish newspaper, the main Jewish newspaper, they said, we want that you vote for AfD because they are the only people who want to protect us against all the mobs in the street of free Gaza from the river to the sea. You know, like so that you have a way bigger, let's say, based on historical misinformation, people switching things in directions where you think, okay, how can you as a like the students in Oxford and in Harvard and so on, how would you run around with the rainbow flag at the Proud Parade? You are pro the people, you demonstrate together with the people. They say from the river to the sea, these people in charge would kill you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The women would not go to university anymore. All gay people would be killed. You know, I mean, why you are identifying with them and fight for them against the bad Jews? That's completely insane. These people would not have elections anymore. Like it's completely insane. And this insanity is the result of years and years of bad education.
Yes.
So, and that's the thing. That was the reason I did Auschwitz, because I felt there are so many movies about the Holocaust, but they all tell kind of individual stories. Anne Frank, Schindler's List, the boy in the striped pajama, whatever. But nobody really showed, okay, what the fuck was the Holocaust? And that is why I showed no story and just a day in the concentration camp, where you follow people from the train into their ashes. So, and that, of course, people like, oh my God, it's so ridiculous. How could you do this, right? No, that's very important that somebody did it.
But if it wasn't you, and it was somebody else, if a big Hollywood director, not Spielberg, let's just say somebody else, made that movie, they would be praised.
Yes,
it would be praised. But because it's you, the guy who did Rampage, the guy who did House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark. Oh, how dare he? How dare he do that? And it's like, no, look beyond. I have all your movies right here. I mean, they're just sitting right next to me. And yeah, there's you have war movies, you have video game movies, you have tragedy movies with like school shootings and stuff. You have such a vast variety of movies. To focus only on like 2 or 3 of those and then get all butthurt, when it comes to something like Auschwitz, which I thought was a great movie. I mean, I actually teared up during it. I enjoy, enjoying it is hard to say, because it is, about, people, in gas chambers, but I think people are crazy. I don't think that they understand.
No, I agree. And it's like, look, with Run, you just asked about Run before. So Run has the problem.
Yes, Run.
That I tried to bring this film out to in a few film festivals, and we applied for various festivals, and nobody played the film. And I know why, because the movie is good. Amanda Plummer, Ulrich Thompson, James Russo, very good cast. Barkhad Abdi from Captain Phillips, Kostas Mandalo. There is good cast in it. The film is good. Everybody who actually watched it said, no, the film is good. But they don't want to play it in festivals. And the reason is I still don't have a deal to distribute, how to distribute the film, is because it's not pro-migration. It's a very even out film where you get the good and the bad of mass migration. When the boat people come, most of them, they want a better life. They want to work. They want to assimilate, but also some not. Some just want free social health care. They want pay, or they being even, as we said, with the rapes, with the knife stabbings, they turn into criminals. They do drug dealing, etc. So, and the question I think what I show in this microcosmos on this Italian island on Run, what plays in one day, is like, if a society gets too much overwhelmed, then the whole society breaks apart. And the thing is, like in Italy, tons of holiday islands have no business anymore. Like nobody goes there because you don't want to lay at the beach, and they're coming like refugees on the boat every 5 hours. So I mean, that's like too dangerous, and you don't want to even see it. You don't want to be there. So they lose all their businesses. And in the end, all these little cities and fishing towns turning into refugee camp organizations, where you, as the local, like you can cater the refugee camp if you have a restaurant, but you have no more guests in your restaurant. And that's not why you opened your restaurant at the beachfront in Italy. So, but that's the fact. And this is the thing. And I felt like the same discussion we have in Germany, of course, day for day, is similar to the US. It's just the sheer amount of people who came into the US under Biden, like 8 million migrants. It's just way too much, period. And then you have to say, no, it's like if you have 1.5 million every year coming in Germany is 300,000 a year. it's overwhelming the society, it's overwhelming the schools, it's overwhelming housing, you know, and that's so absurd that the let's say the more left parties, the left-wing parties, they don't see a connection of all of this impact in the society, you know, because you have then people that are unemployed, paid by the country. So the country goes in higher debt, you know, like you spend, because they go to the doctor, but who pays that? Me. You know, like as a taxpayer, I have to pay for them also. And if you have 5 million people in Germany that don't even pay for healthcare, but they have healthcare, that gets my annual fee gets 20% more every year, 15% more. You know, if they wouldn't be here, the price would stay stable. So, and I think that are the things I bring up in the movie with the James Russo story and Kristen Renton and so on. They have a boat rental and nobody comes anymore. So, and I think it's a very important movie because it doesn't like sugarcoat the migration, but it also don't dooms the migration. It doesn't show like everybody who is coming here is a drug dealer or something, right? So it's like, it's not like this. It shows like there are poor people on the boat too, on the boat ride. That happens too. Like 45,000 people were dead in reality on boat rides over, right? And I bet a lot of them got killed, got thrown overboard, you know, and I show that in the film. It's in the beginning when we are in the boats, where, you know, and when you see all the other movies, when they run in Cannes and Venice and all the festivals, but all the other refugee movies is basically a bunch of nice guys from Africa entering Europe, and it's all the racists in Europe who try to, whatever, keep them out. And just total ridiculous, you know. So, and that's what I feel. It's like the sides collide like crazy. But of course, who is working in film festivals? Who are juries in film festivals? They are 95% left. They're not in the middle. They're left. You know.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I didn't get selected from Tribeca, from South by Southwest, from Sundance, from Venice, from Berlin. They all passed on the film. So,
yeah. Well, what does Chat GPT say? So, because you've probably answered a lot of the questions that it's answering or that it's putting forth. So, I basically pretty much just asked the same thing, you know, interview question for you about the film Run, and it said, now here we go. Here's a well-crafted interview question to ask you about once again, lesser known. I think it's because it hasn't come out yet. Is 2014? That's not right. No. So they got the wrong date there.
2024.
Yeah, so they got that wrong. Okay, so your 2024 film Run is one of your more obscure titles and feels quite different from your usual work. Can you talk about what drew you to that project and what you were trying to explore thematically? Does that fit that?
Yeah, but I think I answered that already, right? So
yeah.
I think their ChatGPT has not enough infos about Run, right? Because in a way, I would not say it's obscure. It's like Run is just the word Run, right? So I mean, I don't know why that should be obscure to title a film Run. What is then with Blackwoods or something, you know, Sanctimony. It's also an obscure title for ChatGPT in a way. So
yeah, it asks like, okay, artistic intent. Unlike your more confrontational or satirical films, Run feels more grounded and psychological. Was that a debate shift in a tone for you? Yes. I think it's thinking of a different movie.
It could be. I don't know, but it's correct what it says, because Run is not. It has action, it has violence, but overall, it's a crystal clear drama. You know, it's like I always have this, of course, a lot of times it's a mixed genre. A Sound on Wall Street is a drama also, but it's also an action movie. So, and I think Run is more a drama as an action movie. So, also based on the ensemble cast, and you follow 6, 7 different characters through that day. I think, yeah, it is definitely not a typical Uwe Boll movie or something, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, then it brings up Rampage and Postal. What were your biggest challenges in making Run, especially compared to your more action-oriented films like Rampage and Postal?
Yeah, I mean the process is in a way always the same, right? So, but let's say it this way. To attract actors to fly over to Europe to shoot a movie is harder as to shoot the movie in North America in general. And I was very positive surprised that Amanda Plummer and other actors loved the script. You know, and I mean, you cannot say Amanda Plummer is like working for the Ku Klux Klan, you know, so the script is really like very even out, a liberal, democratic orientated view, right? So, and that's about this. And I mean the other movies, of course, like Postal and stuff. What is this? There was like a strange noise, but it didn't sound like my dog.
Oh, my cat meowed. It could be my cat.
Because I was like, what? So good, that was okay. So yeah, I mean that's I think the movies are not really connected to each other. I think that shows the limits of AI right now, right? So I mean that they bring these 2 movies up because of Run. They could brought any other movie up too. And the process is, as I said, the process is always the same. I know that when I was doing Postal, definitely that I will get a lot of flag for it. You know, I mean, in retrospective, I'm of course very happy that I did it. I think a Postal movie today with this content would be the end of everybody's career.
Oh,
you know, like, I mean, the actors would not like work again for a longer time. If you, I mean, think about it. J.K. Simmons, a big star, said that the victims of 9/11 were not victims, they were fucking bankers. I mean, a line like that. So, I mean, I don't think that came across in today's time in the way it came across in the movie. I think that people would say, that's insane. That's an insult. We need to shut down that movie. We have to sue him, whatever.
but everything seems to be. I mean, and it's primarily it is the left. It's so offensive to everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could make Postal back then or today, and no matter what, it's these people are just going to just find it offensive, and it's just not looking for any deeper meaning in anything. It's just offensive. So, I mean,
but that is why it was a blast for like more like free thinkers like me. Or I mean, I was in so many screenings from Postal over the years, and there always was you can say 80% of the audience had the blast of their lives. They were laughing their asses off, you know. So, and a few were like, oh, whatever, you know. So, but I think that's always, if you make a good comedy, it's always the case like this, and it has to. So,
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't. Because I'm very curious about Run. I'm looking forward to that coming out. And
let's say this way, we're working on it. I hope I can close the deal with Quiver that did first shift. So we're negotiating right now, but I also cannot like sign a deal where I don't get the majority of the revenues. I mean, I paid the movie, right? So I mean, that's the same. In today's time in the industry right now, is a lot of distribution companies kind of getting desperate, and they need all the revenues to keep their company going. But they shouldn't forget who is in the real risk. It's the filmmakers who make the films, right? So, and that's the reason I cannot, in general, accept deals where I'm not getting a first dollar like position. So I mean, that's otherwise ridiculous. That's the reason we negotiating. I did a lot with Quiver in the past. They were Momentum Films, and they were E1. So that I know this guy's a long time. Phase 4 was the other. So you have a lot of DVDs with them. This is the same people, but the company changed. So over all the years, and I'm looking forward to continue to work with them, and then to get the movie out as fast as possible. Because I have Citizen Vigilante almost finished. I don't want to stack up movies and wait for 4 years before we release them. I want that movie out this year.
Right. No, makes sense. And I'm hoping for that too. So
yeah.
Okay, so then I did ask it about First Shift. And because that is available right now, people can see that. I have watched it. I'm got my fingers crossed for for First Shift 2, so we can get that continuing story. Is there any momentum on that? Is there any?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I hope we can do that this year. So we're really working hard to get like various parties together, and that was the reason that German, Italy, and England release was very important right now, like what happened last week. Because of course, if it's doing well there too, I can get more money from Europe also, so that I can like continue, because that was crystal clear, a movie where a lot of people say, no, it has to continue. We want to know how this unfolds, right? So that was the idea, and I hope we really can do it. We're working hard on it to shoot that this year.
Have you ever thought of doing like a TV show, like something like First Shift, but as a like just a TV show?
I mean, it would be a possibility. Right now, we couldn't find, like, let's say, some channel or whoever said, okay, we want to do this with you guys. So we will continue as a film, because, I mean, we cannot finance ourselves 8 episodes or something, right? So it has to. But of course, I think that was basically almost the perfect pilot for a TV series. And and I think people would like to see more of this couple, of Gino and Kristen Renton. The chemistry is great, and I really hope we can continue that, or at least do another 1 or 2 more movies of it, and and wrap it up properly also.
Yeah, I'm a big trilogy person. I like a beginning, middle, and end. So so it'd be nice to get at least 2 more. So, but according to Chat GPT, it says here, and it's kind of funny. So because I asked the same question and then I just put First Shift in there. It says, if by First Shift you mean Uibol's first major filmmaking experience or first feature film, no. Where is it? Here are some thoughtful interview questions focused on his beginnings and early career. So I guess we could just apply some of these questions to just making First Shift. I mean, you've been making movies for a long time. So like the first one on here says, what do you remember most vividly about your first day on set as the director?
On the first film I did, or in general? Or I mean, I remember.
I think First Shift, I would say, is
First Shift. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize that it will be more like a road movie, and that in New York is the situation overall crowded and chaotic. So you have this kind of, when you shoot somewhere like in Croatia, you can park like 20 cars anywhere and nobody cares, right? In New York, try to park 20 cars. You need 2 days before the last car is parked. So it means the organization and the thing has to be smaller groups with like you shoot faster, and this kind of nervousness has to come across, especially in a cop movie where you have a lot of car driving, what we have. It went like we had to reduce it down to 3 vans to do it. And I remember the first day was actually the scenes in the police office, directly the big scenes with all the cops and Walden, the police captain, and so on. So we did it on purpose on day 1 to really give a wake-up call to the crew, you know, to say, look, we're doing a big movie, you have to do all of this, so that they were not like, don't see us the first day because we're taking off with a car or something. So, and I remember that the extras were not really doing what they should do, let's say it this way. You know, they were standing too much around, and I had the feeling we had not the most experienced extras there. So I basically spent the first few hours to stage the office in a way, you know, they arrested you guys check this guy in, you go over there, to really get the background going properly, because the first like dialogue stuff with Kristen Renton or Gino, it was this kind of like, it doesn't feel off, it felt off because the background was not really working out. So that I remember, and then I felt like, oh, I have to do a lot of work I don't do normally, because you have a background, like, you know, they stage the background for you and you're not like directing all the extras. But everything went different at the first shift. You know, there was a lot of things, they went sideways. But a lot of times also, I think if a shoot of a movie is hard and strange or something happens, the movie gets better. You know, it's like if you just sit there in your director chair and whatever and nothing, you know, like it's different as you run around. And at one point I was my own AD because parts of the crew left, right? So that happened on first shift too. And you feel like, okay, now we go back to the real independent roots and we just do everything ourselves. You know, my camera guy was doing the lights also because the electricians were gone and stuff like this. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then the next question would be, okay, so I think this is you. Okay, I think you mentioned that. So let's see here. It does talk about like what influenced you on the film. Did this like affect the style of the movie? Was there any, I mean, like, you know, some like vigilante movies or slasher movies for Seed or things like that? What police type of films or TV shows influenced you with this?
I mean, definitely French Connection, but
Oh,
also,
yeah, good movie.
but also things like Bad Boys, like this kind of humor between the two main characters. That was all this kind of influential. But I mean, we shot exactly under the bridge in Brooklyn where French Connection was shot, and but in regards also of coloring or how the movie looks, I wanted to be a little more like a golden retro look to it. To remember movies also like State of Grace and you know, like the Sean Penn movie, and I felt like I want to honor in a way New York also with the movie. And that's the reason also we shot so much stuff in New York, so many different corners, so many different locations to present to the world that's the Big Apple here, you know, and it's not like fake shot in Toronto. And but definitely, I mean, I'm a big police show fan, but I'm not the biggest fan of the CSI and so on. It's like they're for me too scripted. You know, this kind of like, you have always the feeling this kind of shows are very yeah, the writer's room and everything is, you know, like it's the old TV series, what I grew up with, what I loved, like The Streets of San Francisco, or Detective Rockford with James Garner, they were all a little looser as today. You know, you have the feeling they also had some room for improvisation and really directing, and you know, like, and when you watch this kind of Blue Blood stuff or whatever, that you have the feeling it's just all like a exact planned out films. They're all looking not theatrical. They're all looking very much like it's almost shot on a stage. What it is a lot of times inside all inside shots are mostly in the stage in this shows.
Okay, interesting. So let's see. Now, of course, I think the reason why this is mentioning like your first, like you're a brand new filmmaker is because it's just called First Shift.
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking at. So it does mention here, did your background before filmmaking shape the way you approached this initial project? So I guess maybe just do you feel all kind of molded into a different thing? And if there's all the movies that came before this, everything that you've done, has this kind of led to this point? Like, do you look at this and go, oh, if I didn't make that movie, I probably couldn't have done this. If I didn't do this movie, we wouldn't have been able to shoot under that bridge. Is it kind of like a culmination of everything that came?
It's of course. I mean, you cannot like undo your past or your experience you had. I know only that the let's say the most time on all of my movies I spent with actors was on First Shift, because we were also kind of in a way stranded, and we were like hanging out after the shoot every evening. We ate together, we discussed what we shot, what we want to shoot tomorrow. And most in the other movies I did, that was not the case. There was I'm more or less, I was happy when I'm done, and then I wanted to be for myself or relax, whatever. And I was not with that show. Not I enjoyed Gino and Kristen a lot, and we had a lot of, I went also out with Daniel Soli, and we really discussed things, also films, what made them being an actor. It was really like a very deep exchange. Before the film, we talked a lot on Zoom, and then we met in New York and we really kept talking. That's the reason we wanted to continue also, because we were really growing together as a group and want to keep doing the show. I didn't have that on a lot of movies. It's like it's almost strange, like because of, let's say, Blood Rain or In the Name of the King, where I worked with so many stars, right? But I was not like hanging out with Ben Kingsley. You know, I met him on set and we shot the film together. And then I think I had one dinner with him in the whole 2 months that we were in total in Romania. And that was really like this kind of, a different situation. But now I really enjoyed that. And then Run too, like we were in that little coast town. And of course, Amanda Plummer, James Russo, Ulrich Thompson, we were, every evening, we were sitting there at the beach, having a drink, talking about what we shot, what we wanted to shoot. So it got a little more relaxed, easier. You know, that's what you just said, is what with experience comes also that you are a little relaxeder. You know, you're not like flipping out because one thing doesn't work out or something. It's just, okay, then we do it a little different. And then it will work out, you know. So, and that you also, I think that's always when I get a schedule now, when people calculating the script, like Citizen Vigilante, then I know exactly how long I will need to shoot that scene. So, and then when they break it down, and then I talk to the AD, I always tell him then, okay, you know, you think that 7 pages will be the whole day. I know it will not. We are done at lunch, because that's just a very easy scene to shoot where people just talk in a hospital, right? So when I said like that sounds, because a lot of ADs, they think you cannot shoot more as 5, 6, 7 pages a day, right? And that it's true. Sometimes you can shoot only 1 page a day, but it's a big thing, a hostage situation on the bridge with like there's action involved or something, where I know I need to cover that from everywhere. There are stunts involved, SFX, armorers, you know. But especially with dialogue or things where you have maybe only one actor doing something, if you set it up right, that goes so quick, where you have all the time in the world to, you know, like where you say, look, I can shoot 12 pages, it's no problem, because it's mostly dialogue. Yeah.
Do you think, with everything that you just said, could you have made this movie or even Run or Citizen Vigilante 20 years ago?
Not the way I did it. I mean, I would not did it the same way. And I think also we were more into the technical details 20 years ago. And now it's a little more this kind of, I want to believe this actors. I want to, you know, I just don't want my perfect shot, what I storyboarded or something. It's more now this kind of, do I believe the characters? Do I believe what they're doing? Do, you know, like that's more the work, I think, to get this, that, you know, the audience will believe this. Yeah. So, and I was in the earlier years, I was always, when that question came with I remember the first time when on Sanctimony, my first English speaking film, like in America, I was coming in a room and there were like, it was a read through with the actors, and they were all talking, and there was Michael Poré, Caspar Van Dien, Catherine Oxenberg, Jennifer Rubin, Eric Roberts. So they were all sitting there, and I was thinking, like, they were reading the script, and then they're asking me stuff, and I was like, oh my fucking God, my English is so bad, I cannot even answer. So, you know, like, I was like really like, because before I had only school English, right? So, and it was this kind of, how can I have a real long conversation with all these people, right? So, and that was a problem. That was a problem. The whole Sanctimony film, what helped me was that Matthias Neumann, my cameraman, studied in LA, and he was better in English as me. So I could also kind of say something in German to him, and he was translating it for the actors. So, but then it was this kind of like, you try your best, the actors see you try your best, and then they try to make it easier for you, right? So they say a line, and they recognize, oh, he's not really understanding what I'm saying. So they adjusted to me, you know, they really helped me there. But I remember that I was really like worried, that I was like, after this read through, I said, oh, fuck, in 3 days starts the shoot. I don't know how to communicate with all of these people. So that I will never forget. That was strange.
And do you mind if we just talk about one more film and then I'll let you go?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get into like a little, like an area of your newer films, and so I got there's now Bandidos,
The
and what? Yeah, that's in chat. GPT says, okay, so if you're interviewing Boll specifically about the documentary version of Bandidos rather than a narrative film, here is a compelling question to open that conversation. So let's see if that's true. Let's see. So you're working on a documentary called Bandidos. What is the central story or issue you're exploring, and what drew you to tackle it in a documentary format rather than fiction? Well, there we go. Okay, that's not bad.
No. Yeah, I mean, Bandidos and the Hells Angels are the biggest like motorcycle groups in the world. They are in 80 countries. And almost by accident, through a friend, I met the German and European boss of the motorcycle gang, basically. And I had a lunch with him and some other Bandidos. And I said, look, guys, your reputation is in the toilet. Everybody thinks you're all like killers and drug dealers and whatsoever. But is it really like this? Like, would you allow me to follow you around with the camera and to go to like parties, to like conventions, whatever, and give me interviews? And that is how it started. And 4 years later, the documentary was finished because it was a not easy decision on their end, and there was a lot of mistrust that I'm only there like an investigative reporter who basically want to throw them under the bus.
Oh.
They had not good experiences with press in general, right? And they were very resistant. And so it was like I was basically doing other stuff, and then a call came. You want to come into Berlin, our 20 years party? So we let you in with a camera. Or you want to come? We do together with the Hells Angels a demonstration against, like, because they're getting a lot of restrictions in Germany recently, you know, where they're closing clubhouses and stuff like this. And so you want to go there. So I interviewed also the Hells Angels boss from Germany. And so step by step, I came to this thing. I was shooting and shooting and shooting. I always had to pay the camera crew going with me, you know, but I didn't saw a documentary coming out of it. And I told them after 2 years, I said, guys, if you don't sit down with me and give me like sit down interviews, I have no documentary. I said, I don't know what I can cut tons of shit together, how like strippers on the pole are or whatever, and you're driving around with motorcycles, you know, but I cannot, like, you gave me here and there a few lines, but we need to sit down and you have to tell me like why you are in the Bandidos, how that all unfolded. And then they did that really after 3 years, because they both got jail penalties. And before they went to jail, they gave me the interviews. So there was a huge trial against like complot, murder, weapon dealing, and so on. And they also at the trial gave me interviews, and the defense attorneys gave me interviews. And I mean, the docu is only out right now in Germany, but it's sold worldwide. And I wait that they do the English voiceover and everything to release it also in the US. Because a docu like this never really existed. When you Google, you see docus about the Hells Angels or the Bandidos or these clubs. They're mostly done from the outside. They're done from newsflash, police, you know, like stuff like this, but not where the actual club members sit down and say how they see it, how their experience is, why they're joined a club like this, what they think about politics, about the world they're living in. And I have that. So that's the reason I feel that docu was important. And it was interesting because when it came out in Germany, it was very successful here on Amazon, very successful, very weeks in the top 10. And before, nobody wanted to buy it till we put it up on Amazon, then it worked out. But because they said that's true pro Bandidos, right? And I said, so you have around 80 different reports, magazines, movies, whatever, that the Bandidos are all criminals. So I'm the only one where the Bandidos actually talk themselves. That's important. That's in the end the most important docu, because you also don't want to make a Ted Bundy docu. If you have a chance to have him in an interview, you would have him in an interview, right? So, and we talk in the interview about it, that there are criminal actions, that there are criminals in the Bandidos, that there were fights with other clubs, that because they control red light stuff, strip clubs, they're controlling the security in a lot of discos and whatever. And there is so what the businesses there are in are businesses where a lot of violence happens, you know. But when you really go deep in, you find out. So, and I interviewed also law enforcement in Germany, and when you really see the few murder cases were all in between groups. It was not a civilian got killed. It was not like, they're not a threat for the public. You know, they're only a threat if the Hells Angels want to take a nightclub away from them. Then that's trouble, both sides, right? So, and that's the thing. But overall, to not allow them, like they had like various like house searches, and then they disallowed the vest, like they couldn't have the vest on anymore, you know. And then you have like, and then they said, okay, so we don't have the vest on anymore. So they put like sweatshirts on with the logos on, right? And that was allowed, but not the vest. So all of this shit made no sense. And I have all of this in the docu. Also, when I talked to the law enforcement, when I told them, like, so what is the point? I said, also, is it not in your interest to see if it's a bandito, or is it like nobody? You know, like I said, also, like, is it not in a way a good thing if you can picture who is a Hells Angels, who is a Banditos, or who is like my uncle driving a Harley? And you know, I mean, and all that questions. I think that it's very entertaining. Also, it's not an action-driven docu. It's more an entertaining docu where you go through a lot of like things that happen, but also a lot of cliches getting put to rest. You know, so yeah, I bet if that comes out in the US, a lot of people will watch that.
Yeah, it's from what you're telling me, I definitely want to see it, because when I was a kid, my mom dated a Hells Angels member, and this was in Northern California, and they were, and I hung out with them as a kid. I didn't know who they were. They were just guys on motorcycles to me, and they were some of the nicest people. They were good to my mom. They were good to me. I mean, I got, you know, a couple rides on their motorcycles, and so it could just be like a matter of perspective. So yeah, you hear a lot of bad things, but I only remember good things.
No, when they go there, we went to Barcelona. They did the European run or the world run in Barcelona in Spain, and there were like 5,000 banditos. And in that whole town was like not in Barcelona, not in the city center, but like 20 kilometers away in a smaller town. There was not one, like that was the safest place on earth when they did 3 days, the world run there, right? There was no unpoliteness. Everybody pays the bills. You know, that's not like, oh, fuck you, I'm not paying, I'm a bandito or something. No, they have crystal clear rules, and they are very strict with the rules. You know, you cannot be unpolite to like a woman. You can, or grandparents, kids, whatever. You know, there's a lot of bullshit out there where you feel it would be good if some other groups in society would handle things like that. But for law enforcement, the reason why they're always on the radar is that they don't accept the law above their club rules. And that is always for the government not acceptable, right? And I had that discussion with the government in the interview where I said, look, but if they're not doing anything, they're just under themselves. They're like, they have a code of honor, right? And the code of honor is like, you stand your ground. You are not like, that's what the thing is, like when they cannot run away from a fight. So if somebody, but that's also the reason they are like muscle bones, right? So they're like, most of the banditos are like 100 kilo, and you know, like they have power. It's like barely small guys. So, but it has to do also with their backgrounds, where they're coming from. A lot of them do bodybuilding or they do fighting sports or whatever. But also, yeah, you cannot be a bouncer if you're 1.65 meters and you have 65 kilos. It would just not work out, right? So, I mean, that's the thing. So the jobs they're working in, mostly, you need somebody, but not to beat people senseless up. It's just to do your job. You know, I mean,
right.
You know, Kim Kardashian will also not hire bodyguards who are like unable to even fight her. So, I mean, that's the thing. And so there's so many these cliches, like you have the vest, you have the Harley, you look like a big bull. You are a violent perpetrator, right? You are 100% hitting your wife, you know, like whatever. And there is so much total like cliche to it where I felt like that's totally bullshit, you know. And they have also club rules, you know. You do wrong things, you're out. And this is the thing. It's like as a prospect, it takes 2 years before you're a club member. And as a prospect, you need to basically prove that you are not stealing, that you do what they say, you know, like this kind of like you have to prove your badge, basically, you know. And it's not like, oh, you have to shoot somebody, then you get your badge. That's also that's old-fashioned storytelling. And it has like, I met so many banditos also that work at totally normal, whatever, like car dealerships in the suit. And then in the evening they put the thing on. So they were not all working in the red light districts or whatever, you know, like it's maybe 60-40. And yeah, but it was, I mean, I'm still in contact with them, and they just contacted me. They wanted, because the European boss died recently, and they filmed the whole funeral and everything. And they said if I can make another docu about this. And I said, not really. They shot very good material, but it's not a documentary. I mean, I said, look, to do a second part would need this kind of sit-down interviews with the widow, with the wife, you know, like with his kids, with friends, where they would tell why he was at it, but like telling his story. They're in Denmark, so this docu would be done in English. Yeah, so I'm still in discussion with them about makes it sense to do a second part. You know, but I said they can, but nobody wants to see just the funeral and saying the guy's dead and now you have 5,000 people at the funeral. And even they did drones, it looks great. I mean, what they shot looked great. But I said that's not like, that's a good opening, but then you have to go bigger. For example, I have to visit the guys in jail who now are in jail, who were the main guys in my docu, right? So maybe they're already coming out, then they should report how was it in jail, blah 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 blah, right? So I need to do all of this again, and I'm not looking forward to do all of this again, because it was not one of my movies took so long as that docu, and was this kind of 4 years of, you don't even know if it will ever end in the movie, you know, and you spend a lot of time. Like, you know, you have endless material in the end, and you travel to Barcelona, we travel to Bologna, to Italy, to Berlin, to Bavaria. So, and I cash flowed it all. You know, I always hired my team and I paid them. And and when you don't know if you ever even get a movie out of this, you know, I was also, after 2.5 years, sometimes really fed up, where I was like, you know what? I mean, if you don't give me the fucking interviews, you know, I can make a nice home video, but then they finally did it. You know, they finally did it, and I say it in the movie too. Like when the two guys sitting there in front of me, I say, you know how long I fucking waited for an interview? And they're laughing their asses off. You know?
Well, yeah, it's trust. I would imagine plays a lot of you know, a part in getting those interviews.
Yes. And I told them, like, look, you don't know me, but other people know me, and whoever knows me for a long time will tell you that if I give you my word, it's on. And I told them I will not do the docu, the final cut of the docu, without showing it to you, and you can tell me, oh my God, no, this shot has to go out, or this one, what I said in the interview, I don't want to lie this in. I said 100% I'm willing. I'm not willing to change the whole thing. I said, it's absurd. You cannot tell me like, oh, we don't want the docu anymore. But we watch it together, you make your notes, and then we finish it. And that's what I did, right? And they had 2 mini cuts of 5 seconds, not more. So, you know, and I said, because they were still like, there were people in the club that really tried to boycott the show. They said, don't do this. Like, Uwe should not be at that party, should not listen to the stuff, whatever, right? So, and so there were people like this. And so, but I had the backing from the 2 bosses in a way. And of course, they all follow the bosses, but then you feel, okay, now the bosses go to jail. Right, so then other people will maybe take over, and you don't know if these are people, they don't want the movie or they hate you or whatever, you know. So that's the thing. It's like you always have to be cautious on your own security. You know, that you know, like, I mean, I have no security, I don't have bodyguards or something, but it was for me, I always had to evaluate, like, I cannot have them in the end hating me. That would be a very big mistake. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, and that's the thing. I said, like, look, if the police is in the end mad that it's too much pro Banditos, nothing will happen to me, right? But if the Bandidos are very mad with me that I made an like a total negative documentary about them, that would have, of course, consequences. I mean, it would be an illusion to think they would not go after you.
Right.
Yeah, so and that's the thing. But it never happened. Everything is good. That's the reason they called me again and asked me, like, can we do something else? That shows now they know they can trust me, that I'm not screwing them over, and I give them my open opinion.
Yeah, that's
okay.
excellent.
Look, 1 hour 40 minutes here. It's like a
wow. Well, okay. I appreciate you staying this long. I really do. And so I will let you go. Is there anything that you would like to promote? Anything you would like to put out there for people to go see?
No, I mean, if people should maybe try to read my biography, right? At the Benjamin books or Bear Benjamin books, like the Uwe Boll autobiography is in English. Maybe you have a look at this. If you didn't watch First Shift, give it a shot, watch it, and and then we will keep talking, and we will, I hope I have good news soon with Run, that we get Run out. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And I definitely think people should even go back and look at your older movies and, maybe see those messages that you put out there that maybe they missed before. So that kind of lead up to these movies. So, check that.
Darfur, Auschwitz, Assault on Wall Street, definitely are movies that people should watch,
Yeah.
Stoic. It's a very hard movie. I can tell it's very hard, but I bet you will like it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, fan of Edward Furlong. So it looks like it's all one location, just in the cell from what the trailer showed me. So it looks interesting. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for being here. I know it's late where you are. It's early for me, but late for you. And probably you have to go out and find the dog. So it's
it got dead silence after it. So I don't know.
I know, that was nice. So okay, well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, and I will look forward to seeing your new movies, and hopefully we'll talk soon again.